Welcome back to our walk with Christ through Holy Week. So what was it that Christ was doing on the Tuesday? We've learned about Palm Sunday, we've learned about Monday, the fig tree and the cleansing of the temple. What about this day? What about Tuesday? Let us pray. Lord, as we walk with you through Holy Week, lead us through your Tuesday of that week. Help us to see and to understand what that day was for you, for your people, for all people. Open our hearts, open our minds to the wisdom that can be granted through the presence of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So Tuesday was a different kind of day from the other two. Jesus and his disciples had spent the night in Bethany, and they were walking back to Jerusalem, back to the temple. And they walked past the fig tree, and they walked past the same route. And there in the temple, they met again with the Pharisees and the religious leaders, as well as some Greeks. According to John, he puts the Greeks in there who wanted to meet Jesus. And the religious leaders by this time were beginning to witness how the people were following Christ more and more. But now, the threat to them was far more personal and far greater in their mind, because now Jesus was doing it on their home turf. He was doing it in the temple. So they were plotting to kill him. And many scholars believe that this was the day that Judas Iscariot met with the Sanhedrin, the rabbinical court of ancient Israel. And Judas volunteered to give Jesus over to them in exchange for 30 pieces of silver. The Pharisees, on their part, they tried to set another trap for Jesus with the greatest commandment question. And this is where Jesus condensed all the commandments into two. They asked him, "What is the greatest commandment?" Jesus said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And there's a second like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus said that on these two commandments hang all the law and all the prophets. So for us, you and I, which is the greatest? You have to stop and wonder about that. Which is the greatest? The first, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. First and great commandment. But how can the first be great if we do not adhere to the second? You're thinking about it, I know. And while you're thinking about that, think about how harsh a judgment was just pronounced on the Pharisees. Love your neighbor as yourself. I'll leave you to think about that. From the temple and the discourse with the Pharisees and the religious leader, Jesus moves back across the Kidron Valley to the Mount of Olives. And he moves into a time of teaching and sharing with the disciples through a number of parables. And I'll put their passages down. You can check all those out. And it was on his way there that Jesus stopped and looked over Jerusalem and said, "Ah, Jerusalem, Jerusalem." That lament over Jerusalem that takes place. What did he see? What did he know? How did he feel? And it was also here that he foretold the destruction of the temple. And by its very destruction, the destruction of the rule of the Pharisees. Their rule over Jewish tradition and religion. Because not only would the temple fall, the temple tradition would fall. It seems that instead of the Pharisees silencing Jesus, their own deeds, their own desires would bring about their ultimate downfall from their pious pillar of religious morality. Something for us to think about.